Thousands gathered in Boston over the weekend for the most confusing protest ever held. In what seemed to be a microcosm of the nation as a whole, no one at the protest knew what anyone believed. They just knew that they themselves were paragons of virtue and hated everyone else. There were Nazis supporting free speech, anti-fascists supporting fascism, and 7 guys who were trying to get to the Red Sox game but stopped off at the protest to see if there was any free beer. President Trump added to the confusion by tweeting that the country needed to heal, but he spelled heal H-E-E-L. So no one knows what that was about. Maybe something having to do with feet. Your guess is as good as mine. CNN's Jim Acosta tried to clear things up with a report from the scene saying, quote, "Look at me, I'm Jim Acosta. I can stand on my head and wiggle my toes. Look at me, look at me, look at me right now," unquote. Acosta then played a video of himself shouting rude and ignorant questions at people without listening to their answers and offered to sell passersby a home video entitled The Acosta Family Picnic, starring Jim Acosta. In one touching moment during the protest, white supremacists and anti-fascists joined together for the annual Worst People in the Country sing-along, singing, quote, "We are the worst people in the country. We wish we could write a song with clever lyrics or even words that rhyme, but we can't because we are the worst people in the country," unquote. The nation's politics have become so confusing of late because unemployment, racism, and crime are at such low levels that no one knows what to complain about. So they're just complaining about the first thing that comes to mind: statues, internet memes, and every blessed word out of Donald Trump's mouth. As one protester put it, quote, "Personally, I don't have any real problems that couldn't be fixed by a good psychiatrist, but if I scream loudly enough, maybe I can make everyone hysterical about something," unquote. Boston police, meanwhile, seem to have done a good job minimizing the violence at the rally, spreading out over the city in what they called Operation Keep These Knuckleheads from Hurting One Another. As one officer put it, quote, "I have never seen so many idiots gathered together in one place for no earthly reason. It's like they held an aimless idiot convention in Philadelphia, and the people who were too stupid to find their way there came to Boston instead," unquote. Not all of the protesters were terrible people, however. One woman held up a sign saying we all have to love one another. But then someone explained to her that that was never going to happen, so she went home and watched TV. As CNN's Jim Acosta reported at the end of the day, quote, "Look at me, I'm Jim Acosta. I can pat my head and rub my tummy at the same time. I'm Jim Acosta. Look at me," unquote. Actually, everyone at the protest seems to have been saying pretty much the same thing. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show.
I feel hunky-dunky, life is tickety. I feel hunky-dunky, life is tickety-boo. Birds are winging, also singing hunky-dunky-doo. Ship-shape, tipsy-topsy, the world is zippity-zing. It's a wonderful day, hurrah, hooray! It makes me want to sing. Oh, hurrah, hooray! Oh, hooray, hurrah!
All right, CNN just reported that Donald Trump is devouring the sun. I didn't know that. I just thought it was an eclipse, but apparently it's all Donald Trump's fault, and so is everything else. They just reported that it will now live in eternal darkness until Donald Trump resigns. That's news from CNN. Michael Knowles is with us today to talk about comedy. He actually wrote an article with words in it. He wrote an article with words in it. I know they were the best words. He knows all the best words. So he wrote an article about comedy and why conservatives are funnier than leftists, which is certainly true here. I know that. But he's going to come on after the break, so you got to subscribe if you want to see him, or you can come over to thedailywire.com and you can listen to him. But if you subscribe for a lousy $10 a month, you can watch the whole show right on the site and be in the mailbag on Wednesday, have all your questions answered, and if you subscribe annually for a lousy $100, you get the Leftist Tears mug, tumbler, whatever the hell it is. You get it. It's yours. And it has Leftist Tears on it and in it. Mine has Leftist Tears actually in it. You know, the thing I get asked most about Michael Knowles, because he now has this great new show, The Michael Knowles Show, is how did Michael Knowles get a show? And the answer is we didn't use ZipRecruiter.com, because the way we hire people here is we kind of walk out in the street and say, does anybody want a show? That's how I got my show, certainly. And Knowles was the first guy to say yes. But with ZipRecruiter, you can post your job to 100+ job sites with just one click, and then their powerful technology efficiently matches the right people to your job better than anyone else. That's why ZipRecruiter is different. Unlike other job sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you, it finds them. In fact, over 80% of jobs posted on ZipRecruiter get a qualified candidate in just 24 hours. We here at the Daily Wire have no idea what the words qualified candidate actually mean. I'm not even sure. I'm just saying those things. No juggling emails or calls to your office. Simply screen, rate, and manage candidates all in one place with ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use dashboard. You can find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by businesses of all sizes to find the most qualified job candidates with immediate results. And right now, my listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free, which is pretty cheap. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. That's ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. One more time to try for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. Don't let Michael Knowles happen to you. That would be a terrible thing. All right. So the Klavan this weekend. Oh, first, I really have to add, just from that opening, we really have to give kudos to the Boston police because they separated the protesters. Who knows what everybody believed? They said it was a free speech rally, and then those people didn't show up, and then all the people who said they were anti-fascist, but are they also anti-free speech? I don't know. They're all marching, everybody, and they just kept people apart, and they had a big show of manpower. So good for them. I mean, it's a little harder for people for police in places like Charlottesville, smaller towns, to marshal that kind of show of force. But it's not so hard to keep these people apart. And the reports from places like Charlottesville and Berkeley, California, that the cops kind of stand down when the people they like are getting, the people they dislike are getting punched. So I think that good for the Boston cops for doing it right. Steve Bannon did not make it through the Klavanless weekend. So that is a genuinely interesting development. I mean, Steve Bannon, there are all these reports. Steve Bannon, obviously the guy who sort of informed Trump's view with that nationalism, that America first, build the wall. They say he's the guy who pushed for things like the regulations, cutbacks, and the Gorsuch nomination. And there's a real concern now that he's gone, that Trump is basically surrounded by Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump, Gary Cohn, the senior economic advisor who was a Democrat, a Goldman Sachs kind of guy, Dina Powell, another senior advisor, and another New York liberal. All these people, these liberals who surround him, because Donald Trump has a lot of Democrat instincts. He is basically a Democrat with a few conservative ideas. And Bannon sort of informed his ideas with that populism, that loudmouth, national economic populism. So I was thinking, is this a good thing for us or a bad thing? Because the way the press always covers these things is it a good thing for Steve Bannon? Is it a good thing for Donald Trump? Who cares? I just care about us. I care about conservatives and conservatism. And there is this worry with Trump. The worry with Trump is that Trump sounds like a conservative, but he's not. Same worry that I always say, he sounds like a tough guy, but he's not really. He's just as prone to panic as anybody else in the country, the way the press, the strength of the media in this country, the strength of the news media, the left-wing news media in this country, is making people in power panic. Because the people don't always panic, but it's getting people like after Charlottesville, oh my God, he's a Nazi, Trump is a Nazi supporting Nazis, Bannon has to go. They've been pounding Bannon has to go forever, because Bannon represents everything they dislike, even though Bannon's not that conservative either. He's kind of a classical liberal. He wants to tax the rich, and his anti-free trade thing, I don't think anybody on the right, the real right, is actually against that. Bannon is saying, well, now I'm going to war. He said, first of all, the Donald Trump presidency that we fought for and won is over. So basically, he is saying that now Donald Trump, he says some good things still may come out of it, but Donald Trump is now just going to be at the hands of all the Democrats and liberals surrounding him and all the globalists. That's their big thing, the globalists. And Breitbart, he went back to the Breitbart site to lead the Breitbart site, and there's some talk of him trying to construct a conservative news network, immediately says, this is war. This is war. And what do they mean by that? Are they going to war with Trump, or are they going to war with all the people they think are telling Trump the wrong thing to do? I mean, my experience of life, two things that I can tell you from my experience of life. One, if you leave a power center, you've lost your power. Like, people always think, I'm going to leave and fight this from the outside. That never works, because once you're out of the power, thing. Nobody remembers you were even there. In this case, it's a little different because Bannon's power was the Breitbart site. Once he got into and then his power was Trump in the race, in the campaign. Once he got into the White House, he was just the guy at the end of the hall that nobody was listening to. And with the good things that he did, the pushing to make sure they really got conservative judges, pushing against the regulations, which after all are Trump's major accomplishments so far, with that came the Bannon of it all. I mean, as I've always said, Bannon has never been anything but gracious and polite to me. But everyone I know who knows him or has worked with him says that he goes off on them, that he's bullying, that he has a bad temper, that he is always at war doing battle with people. I have seen a little bit of that. And you can't have that in the White House all the time. You know, you can't have that chaos. And what has happened, my view of the Trump presidency so far is that Trump is a guy, I keep saying this, nobody listens to this, but it is true. Trump is a guy with deep, deep personality flaws. Okay, I know, who knew, right? But he is a guy who learns stuff. And he started to learn how to wrangle the cats in the Congress, and then his personality flaws took over, and everybody, the firing and the kind of chaos coming out of the White House, generated by the White House, the big mouthism that scares all the little Republicans away because they're scared of the press and they go running for help. That doesn't help get your agenda through the legislature, right? It doesn't help get the Senate and the House to pass the bills you want them to pass. So all the things that Trump can do, appointing judges, taking care of, foreign policy, cutting back regulations, all those things that he can do, but he can't get any laws passed unless these people are with him. And if he wants them to take risks, like Obama got the Democrats to take risks for his health care bill, he's got to have some personal power with the people, or else they're just not going to listen to him. And all this firing stuff, if he thinks firing people is going to get him any leeway with the Democrats, it's just not going to happen. I mean, this is the one thing protecting us from a full Democrat Trump presidency is the Democrats hate him, and he hates people who hate him. Adam Schiff, he's the guy who's been hounding Trump over the Russian thing. He's on the House Intelligence Committee. He's on Jake Tapper. And listen to whether he's going to be satisfied. Tapper asked him, are there more people who need to be fired? Yeah, basically everybody, and including Trump.
There's certainly a lot of people on the White House staff and NSC staff that shouldn't be there, people like Miller and Gorka and others who not only, I think, represent the same thing that Steve Bannon did, but aren't capable of doing the job well. So, yes, I think there's more cleaning house that ought to take place. But as I mentioned in that tweet, Jake, the more fundamental problem is at the very top. I think what the president had to say about the demonstrations in Boston and elsewhere was perfectly fine, perfectly unobjectionable, but also perfectly inadequate after that debacle of a press conference he had supposedly on infrastructure. The real, I think, challenge and job for the chief executive in a country where race has always been such a difficult conversation is to do everything possible to bring our country together, to help make us a more perfect union. And what the president did this week was as if he stood on a line dividing the country and pushed to separate one American from another with all his might.
So what was it, Trump doing that, or was it somebody else doing that? Was it Trump really dividing? Listen, I truly believe that Donald Trump is blowing one of the great opportunities. I said this during the primaries when I was saying that you shouldn't nominate Trump. The reason I said you shouldn't nominate Trump, one of the many reasons, was that the press has spent its credibility. CNN, the New York Times, ABC, CBS, NBC, they now, because of the way they covered Obama or failed to cover Obama, they now have no credibility. The problem with Trump is he keeps walking into the punch. So it's fun to watch him take the press on because the press is corrupt and weak and dishonest. It's fun. But he doesn't do it as well as he needs to do it. He doesn't do it with the kind of wit and witticism and wisdom that is required to do it. But if you don't think, there's a YouTube video going kind of viral. It's getting a lot of press from a very beautiful young girl named Candace Owen, who has a YouTube series called The Myth of the Coon. And she's, if you can't watch because for some reason you're not a subscriber or something like that, She's an absolutely gorgeous girl, and she comes on and basically says, "You expect me to panic. Where's the panic really coming from?" Just listen to a little bit of this.
I mean, there are, what, 6,000 Klansmen left in our nation? You want me to actually process that as a legitimate fear every day when I wake up?
It's Donald Trump's fault that they're feeling energized. It's Obama's fault that Black Lives Matter is violent.
Both of you children, to your room. It's obviously the media's fault. I mean, the media is creating this entire narrative, and it is crazy, absolutely crazy to me that people have not figured this out yet. I mean, why do you think we didn't hear a single thing about David Duke, white supremacy, and the KKK the entire time Obama was in office? Do you think that they were all hiding underground, waiting for the next white president, meeting by the light of the moon? Do you really actually believe that they weren't still meeting, holding protests, having rallies and marches? Maybe the media wasn't covering it. Use your brain. I mean, the media is literally simulating a reality right now, and it is fascinating to watch people fall for it over and over again. Am I the only person in the world that relies on her own experiences to dictate what's going on in the world? I mean, maybe it's me. Maybe I live in a bubble where black people and white people actually get along every day.
I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, that is exactly right. And I will prove it to you. I will prove to you that it is the source of all the panic, the source of all the tension, the source of everything that's going on. I mean, it is the media. I will prove it to you in just a minute. But first, we must talk about the fact, we mustn't forget. You know, everybody's talking about the eclipse. Everybody's talking about all these events that are going on. People forget to talk about the fact that it's National Underwear Month. I mean, come on. You know, these are our national traditions. These are things that people have passed down from generation to generation and have looked at each other and said, why are you giving me this underwear? And, you know, father has explained to son, mother has explained to daughter, because it is National Underwear Month. This is the time when we should all gather together as one, no matter what color we are, no matter what religion are, and buy some underwear from Me Undies. Me Undies are the best underwear. They are so incredibly comfortable, and they come in a zillion different colors and designs. Always, when you go on their website, they always have new designs, funny designs, regular designs, all kinds of things for both men and women, specially designed. Each pair is specially designed for both men and women. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. I think that's just too much information. But trust me, they are incredibly comfortable. They are made from lensing micromodal, a sustainably sourced, naturally soft fabric that's proven to be 3 times softer than cotton. I have worn them. I'm telling you, this is true. They get to, where did they get this? They had they get this from some tree. Where was it? In Bavaria, Austria. It's some incredible new material, and it actually naturally contains odor. What was it? Australia. Was it Australia? No, it was Austria. Oh, well, who can tell that they all look alike, those Austrians and Australians. Anyway, they really feel good. They're silky smooth, a downright dreamy embrace of MeUndies. And guess what? All through National Underwear Month, you can try them risk-free. You can go on until August 31st. You can get 20% off your first pair plus free shipping at MeUndies.com, MEUNDIES.com/Klavan.
Captain Klavan, how do you spell that?
Thank you. I'm glad you asked me that question. It's Klavan, KLAVAN, MeUndies.com/Klavan, 20% off your first pair, MeUndies.com/Klavan, and if you don't like them, they're free. So all through August, National Underwear Month, while you're sitting around the National Underwear tree singing underwear carols, you can get your MeUndies and try them for free. We should probably break from Facebook and YouTube, which means if you want to hear the rest of the show, come on over to thedailywire.com. But to see it, you have got to subscribe for your lousy $10 a month. Look at that. What are you doing with it? You're not doing anything with it. It's sitting in your wallet. Give it to us, and we will entertain you and inform you as only we can.